AG. Okay, well, let me cut off M and G, yes, so. All right. All right, lovely people. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you all. How everybody doing? Guys, I never said my Bible study this morning. I don't know, so I'm slacking, right? I don't say I'm slacking, right? All right. But if you don't want to know, say, oh, no, right? Yeah. But anywho, I am here now. We're going we're going to read now. We're going to read this book, Taken at the Flood, this Agatha Christie novel, starting to gear up to be a great book. Yes, as we have been reading it for the last few days. AG is in the house. Me know some all I wanna just stirring up. Can't wake up out of bed late, man. Me Jesus. You could have got Kingston already. Go to business. Yeah, me say, me don't know what happened to the phone just now, make it cut off. I have no idea. But may I tell you no, from me wake up from morning, me could have go a Coronation Market, sell big jilla peas, buy big jilla oil, and excuse me? Who that? Just do that. You're really graping with me, you know. You're really graping with me. Eh? You are like seriously. Like seriously, Miss Card. Take it off. Take it off. Remove it. Remove it. Remove it. I'm gonna beat you to sickness. If you do a remove it, I'm gonna beat you up. I'm gonna beat you. I will beat you up. You better remove it. Take it down. Take it down. You know, so me will block you. If I don't block you, I don't name what me name. If I don't block you, I don't name what me name. AG, AG, what's up? I saw a time man, a wife and sweetheart, you know, I saw they antagonize each other. I don't know why. Eyes, I'm so done with you. I'm so done with you. I will block her. I'm going to block her in the name of Jesus. Oh my gosh. So morning guys, how everybody doing? How y'all doing? Why did I don't know why I don't know why the live keeper. I don't know why the live keeper. I can't make the live a cut off so you know. Sure. I don't know what to do with you. Morning, guys. Uno don't pay card no mind here. Uno just continue to be on the right side. Uno, uno, We don't follow the in them on a backbench. Okay? Don't follow them. Don't follow. Morning, guys. So this morning we're gonna continue reading the book Taken at the Flood. And before I was rudely interrupted, uh, the me notice say y'all were at Bible study this morning, So hear the book of Proverbs telling all the things that it had was to tell So need to go back and listen to the book of Proverbs chapters 1 to 6. No, chapters 1 to 5. Now let me tie up my tongue. Chapters 1 to 5 that was read this morning. All right. But welcome into the live right now. We are going to be reading Taken at the Flood. Oh, y'all doing? God, what's up? AG, what's up? Everybody else in the live, don't forget to hit the like button, share out the stream, invite your friends and your friends to come on over. We are reading the book Taken at the Flood. It's an Agatha Christie novel. And for those of you who have been here the last 2 days that we have started reading the book, you will know that this book, hmm, this book is gearing up to be rather interesting. Why I say that is because the characters in the book. Now, if you're just coming in and you don't know what the story is about, so the story is set in London back in the days of the war in the 1940s, and there is this family, the Clouds, who are very wealthy, but most of their wealth has been um uh, most of the wealth of the members of that family can be attributed to their uncle Gordon, who had had made quite a bit of wealth for himself through all kinds of dealings and great money management. And to that end, he had basically spoilt everybody in making them depend on him. He would always give them money for school, money for just about anything. They would go into shady business deals, and they would lose capital, and he would always be there to bail them out. And so everybody seems to have gotten quite comfortable, even the ones who he had sent to law school. He had sent Jeremy was a lawyer, one was a doctor, one had gone into great agriculture, and so they had depended on him all their lives. And he had written in his will that even after his death, they would continue to receive money from his funds. And so, with them being spoiled like that, they didn't see the need to save. They didn't see the need to do quality investment. They just saw the need to just be flirtatious with money, because good old Uncle Gordon, will always bail them out. But we know in real life that that's not the case. We cannot lay down and depend on people all the time. Cortian is here. Welcome, Cortian. Happy Friday to you, my love. We know that in real life, we cannot sit down and depend on anybody, because people can bail on us, people can die, things can change. Okay? So it is best that we do for ourselves, be able to stand on our own 2 feet rather than be dependent on others. And so the Clouds didn't learn that. But then, good old Gordon met a young woman, married her. He was like 60 something, met a young woman in her 20s. He married her, and shortly thereafter, he passed away without even getting a chance to modify his will. And because of that, the young woman, whose name is Rosalind, she is now in charge of all his money. And her brother David is making sure she doesn't make bad decisions about it. When he learned that she had married this rich old dude, he quit all that he was doing and hurried to her side so that he could oversee everything. And whoops, lo and behold, good old Gordon died, and now David is acting as though the money belongs to him. God said, learn to sit on your own. Exactly, sis. Learn to sit on your own bottom rather than depend to sit on somebody else's own. Okay? So now they are having this family get together, and Rosalind and David has shown up, and we can hear the hatred in the voices of the others as they seem to be plotting about what to do about Rosalind and David, because the only way they can get their hands on Gordon's dead left money is if Rosalind is out of the picture, and they can't get to Rosalind without going through David. So it seems like the plot is thickening to take out both David and Rosalind. We don't know, but we're gonna find out, right? You see me blood see roll up in the place. Delia, what's up? Oh my God. Delia may need to talk, but we are gonna talk in a little bit. Yeah, not today. How you doing, my love? So good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you, my darling. All right, guys. So we're gonna continue reading because we want to know what else has happened. What happened at the table when we stopped reading yesterday, they were at the table. Yeah. And David was telling them how Rosalind was very awkward and foolish, and she had been lucky. She had married one man who died in Africa, and she got a little bit of pension. And then she was lucky enough to marry good old Gordon, who had a lot of money. So it looks like Rosalind is really, yeah, Rosalind is really, really very, very lucky. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, me I forgot call you. Maybe later, cause me hurry up finish reading this, and then me I forgot get my daughter's saxophone fix, and then me know how long that I go take, but we will see. Me we text you, and then if we have time, we talk. Okay, so let us continue now on to Taken at the Flood, chapter 5. David, when we are going back to London, when are we going to America? Across the breakfast table, David Hunter gave Rosalind a quick, surprised glance. There's no hurry in there. There's no hurry. What's wrong with this place? He gave a swift, appreciative glance round the room where they were breakfasting. Forobank was built on the side of a hill, and from the windows one had an unbroken panorama of sleepy English countryside. On the slope of the lawn, thousands of daffodils had been planted. They were nearly over now, but a sheet of golden bloom still remained. Crumbling the toast on her plate, Rosaline murmured, You said we'd go to America as soon as it could be managed. Yes, but actually, it isn't managed so easily. There's priority. Neither you nor I have any business reasons to put forward. Things are always difficult after the war. He felt faintly irritated with himself as he spoke. The reasons he advanced, though genuine enough, had the sound of excuses. He wondered if they sounded that way to the girl who sat opposite him, and why was she suddenly so keen to go to America? Rosalind murmured, You said we'd only be here for a short time. You didn't say we were going to live here. What's wrong with Wormsleyvale and Furrowbank? Come on now. Nothing. It's them. All of them. The clouds, you mean? Yes. That's just what I get a kick out of. said David. I like seeing their smug faces eaten up with envy and malice. Don't grudge me my fun, Rosalind. She said in a low, troubled voice. I wish you didn't feel like that. I don't like it. Have some spirit, girl. We have been pushed around enough, you and I. The clouds have lived soft, lived on Big Brother Gordon. Little fleas on a big flea. I hate their kind. I always have. I don't like hating people. It's wicked. Don't you think they hate you? Have they been kind to you? Or friendly? They haven't been unkind. They haven't done me any harm. But they'd like to, babyface. They'd like to. He laughed recklessly. If they weren't so careful of their own skins, you'd be found with a knife in your back one fine morning. She shivered. Don't say such dreadful things. Well, perhaps not a knife. Strychnine in the soup. Oh my God. Now you hear that? He said maybe they would poison her in the soup. She stared at him, her mouth tremulous. Listen, the person who write the book here, see, man. A person who write that, I really want to thump them in them back. Oh my God. You are joking. He became serious again. Don't worry, Rosalind. I'll look after you. They have got me to deal with. She said, trembling over the words. If it's true what you say, you know what? Let me just say this. This author, not ready yet. Why don't you say what the person said and then say she said? Why do you say she said before what the person said? Like, anywho, let us continue. She said, stumbling over the words, if it's true what you say about their hating us or hating me, why don't we go to London? We'd be safe there, away from all of them. The country's good for you, my girl. You know it makes you ill being in London. That was when the bombs were there. The bombs. She shivered, closed her eyes. I'll never forget. Never. Yes, you will. He took her gently by the shoulders and shook her slightly. Snap out of it, Rosalind. You were badly shocked, but it's over now. There are no more bombs. Don't think about it. Don't remember. The doctor said country air and a country life for a long time to come. That's why I want to keep you away from London. Is that really why? Is it, David? I thought perhaps. What did you think? Rosalind said slowly. I thought perhaps it was because of her you wanted to be here. Her? You know the one I mean, the girl the other night, the one who was in the Wrens. His face was suddenly black and stern. Lynn? Lynn Marchmont? She means something to you, David. Lynn Marchmont? She's Rowley's girl. Good old stay-at-home Rowley. That's bovine. Oh my God. He calls him a cow. That bovine, slow-witted, good-looking ox. I watched you talking to her the other night. Oh, for heaven's sake, Rosalind. And you have seen her since, haven't you? I met her near the farm the other morning when I was out riding, and you'll meet her again. Of course, I'll always be meeting her. This is a tiny place. You can't go 2 steps without falling over a cloud. And a cloudy means the name of one of the people with the last name Cloud. But if you think I've fallen for Lynn Marchmont, you are wrong. Dead wrong. She's a proud, stuck up, unpleasant girl without a civil tongue in her head. I wish old Rolly joy with her. No, Rosalind, my girl, she's not my type, not one bit. She said doubtfully, are you sure, David? Of course I'm sure. she said half timidly. I know you don't like my laying out the cards, but they come true. They do indeed. There was a girl bringing trouble and sorrow. A girl would come from over the sea. There was a dark stranger, too, coming into our lives and bringing danger with him. There was the death card. And you and your dark strangers, David. What a massive superstition you are. Don't have any dealings with a dark stranger. That's my advice to you. He strolled out of the house laughing, but when he was away from the house, his face clouded over and he frowned to himself, murmuring, maybe you need God, me not care how much billion she sell. Me not care how much billion she sell. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. Okay. Bad luck to you, Lynn. Coming home from abroad and upsetting the apple cart. People must, when you write, you expect people to read it. Of course, yes, back in the day when these books were written, of course, there was a lot of reading. Lots of people were reading books. So, of course, yes, you're going to sell billions. Certainly. But when you write for other people to read and understand. Digging up the dictionary and putting every second word is one hell of a word, one hell of a 16 letter word where somebody have to go find a dictionary to look up. By that time you have lost your taste for the reading. So somebody like me who don't mind going to look up the word and will read it again and insert the new word and understand it will appreciate her writing somewhat. Somebody else who not have no time for it and don't have a penchant for all these words, not gonna have no time for it. And I said what I said. Hey, yeah, I write for ordinary people to read. Ordinary people, not extraordinary people. And she too extra. Too bloody extra. All right. Let us continue. Let us continue. I you know she extra too. You very well know. The truth is the truth. But anyways, sis, we're gonna go and read it since we start to read it already. Bad luck to you, Lynn, coming home from abroad and upsetting the apple cart. For he for he realized that at this very moment he was deliberately making a course on which he might hope to meet the girl he had just apostrophized so savagely. You know, she's like, excuse me. She a, she a write like the lumpy pillar guy, like the, like the pillar guy with his lumpy pillars. But oh my god. Anyway, this is apostrophized. So listen to this. Listen to this. Apostrophized. My God. Let me read that again and see if I understand it. For he realized that at this very moment he was deliberately making a course on which he might hope to meet the girl he had just apostrophized so savagely. Rosalind watched him stroll away across the garden and out through the small gate that gave onto a public footpath across the fields. Then she went up to her bedroom and looked through the clothes in her wardrobe. She always enjoyed touching and feeling her new mink coat. To think she should own a coat like that, she could never quite get over the wonder of it. She was in her bedroom. She was in her bedroom when the parlour maid came up to tell her that Mrs. Marchmont had called. Adela was sitting in the drawing room with her lips set slightly together and her heart beating at twice its usual rate. She had been steeling herself for several days to make an appeal to Rosalind, but true to her nature, had procrastinated. She had also been bewildered by finding that Lynn's attitude had unaccountably changed and that she was now rigidly opposed to her mother's seeking relief from her anxiety by asking Gordon's widow for a loan. However, another letter from the bank manager that morning had driven Mrs. Marchmont into positive action. She could delay no longer. Lynn had gone out early, and Mrs. Marchmont had caught sight of David Hunter walking along the footpath, so the coast was clear. She particularly wanted to get Rosaline alone without David, rightly judging that Rosaline alone would be a far easier proposition. Nevertheless, she felt dreadfully nervous as she waited in the sunny drawing room, though she felt slightly better when Rosaline came in with what Mrs. Marchmont always thought of as her half-witted look, more than usually marked. I wonder, thought Adela to herself, if the blast did it, or if she was always like that. Rosaline stammered. Oh, good morning. Is there anything? Do sit down. Such a lovely morning, Mrs. Marchmont. All my early tulips are out. Are yours? The girl stared at her vacantly. I don't know. What was one to do, thought Adela, with someone who didn't talk garden or dogs? Those standbys of rural conversation. Aloud she said, unable to help the tinge of acidity that crept into her tone. Of course, you have so many gardeners. They attend to all that. I believe we are short-handed. Old Mullard wants two more men, he says, but there seems a terrible shortage still of labor. The words came out with a kind of glib, parrot-like delivery, rather like a child who repeats what it has heard a grown-up person say. Yes, she was like a child. Was that, Adela wondered, was that her charm? Was that what had attracted that half-hearted, shrewd businessman named Gordon Cloud and blinded him to her stupidity and her lack of breeding? You're all them bright, you're the audaciousness. After all, it couldn't only be looks. Plenty of good-looking women had angled unsuccessfully to attract him, but childishness to a man of 62 might be an attraction. Was it? Could it be really? Or was it a pose that had paid and so had become second nature? Rosalind was saying, David's out, I'm afraid, and the words recalled Mrs. Marchmont to herself. David might return. Now was her chance, and she must not neglect it. The words stuck in her throat, but she got them out. I, I wonder if you could help me. Help you? Rosalind looked surprised, uncomprehending. Couldn't then just say Rosalind looked surprised? I, I, things are very difficult, you see. Gordon's death has made a great difference to us all. You silly idiot, she thought. Must you go on gaping at me like that? You know what I mean. You must know what I mean. After all, you have been poor yourself, haven't you, Rosalind? No, no, hear that? God. She hated Rosalind at that moment, hated her because she, Adela Marchmont, was sitting here whining for money. She thought, I can't do it. I can't do it after all. In one brief instance, all the long hours of thought and worry and vague planning flashed again across her brain. Sell the house. But move where? There weren't any small houses on the market. Certainly not any cheap houses. Take paying guests. But you couldn't get staff, and she simply couldn't. She just couldn't deal with all the cooking and housework involved. If Lynn helped, but Lynn was going to marry Rowley. Live with Rowley and Lynn herself. No, 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 no. She'd never do that. get a job. What job? Who wanted an untrained, elderly, tired looking old woman? Oh my God. She could not think of what she wanted to do because she had never learned to sit on her own bottom. All her life, she had depended on on Gordon. So now she is stuck between a rock and a hard place, not knowing what to do. And it grieves her spirit that she must come to Rosalind and be on her knees begging Rosalind for a loan, begging Rosalind for money when she believed that it should be the other way around. She should be the haves and Rosalind should be the have not. You hear how she say to Rosalind, "Oh, you have been poor all your life." The nerve! She heard her voice, belligerent because she despised herself. "I mean money," she said. "Money?" said Rosalind. She sounded ingenuously surprised, as though money was the last thing she expected to be mentioned. Adela went on doggedly, tumbling the words out. "I've overdrawn at the bank, and I owe bills, repairs to the house, and the rates haven't been paid yet. You see, everything's halved. My income, I mean, I suppose it's taxation. Gordon, you see, used to help. With the house, I mean, he did all the repairs and the roof and the paintings and things like that. And an allowance as well. He paid it into the bank every quarter. He always said not to worry. And of course, I never did. I mean, it was all right when he was alive. But now, she stopped. She was ashamed, but at the same time relieved. After all, the worst was over. If the girl refused, she refused, and that was that. Rosalind was looking quite uncomfortable. "Oh dear," she said, "I don't know. I never thought. Well, of course, I'll ask David." Grimly gripping the sides of her chair, Adela said desperately, "Couldn't you give me a check now?" "Yes, yes, I suppose I could." Rosalind, looking startled, got up, went to the desk. She hunted in various pigeonholes and finally produced a checkbook. "Shall I? How much?" Would £500? Adela broke off. "Whoa, £500?" Rosalind wrote obediently. A load slipped off Adela's back. After all, it had been easy. She was dismayed as it occurred to her that it was less gratitude that she felt than a faint scorn for the easiness of her victory. Rosalind was surely strangely simple. The girl rose from the writing desk and came across to her. She held out the check awkwardly. The embarrassment seemed now entirely on her side. "I hope this is all right. I'm really so sorry." Adela took the check. The unif- the unformed, childish hand straggled across the pink paper. "Mrs. Marchmont, £500. Rosalind Cloud." "It's very good of you, Rosalind. Thank you." "Oh, please, I mean, I ought to have thought. Very good of you, my dear." With the check in her handbag, Adela Marchmont felt a different woman. The girl had really been very sweet about it. It would be embarrassing to prolong the interview. She said goodbye and departed. She passed David in the drive, said good morning pleasantly, and hurried on. I hope Rosalind tells David what just happened. So David could run her down and take the check back. Let's see what's going to happen. What's going to happen in chapter 6? You see how quickly she got up from the table? She ain't got nothing more to do with Rosalind. She got the check, and that was that. Did you hear her say goodbye? Did you hear her say thank you? I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it. She was too glad to get the check. She's gone. No grace. Chapter 6. "What was the Marchmont woman doing here?" demanded David as soon as he got in. "Oh, David, she wanted money dreadfully bad. I'd never thought. And you gave it to her, I suppose." He looked at her in half humorous despair. You are not to be trusted alone, Rosalind. Oh, David, I couldn't refuse after all. After all, what? How much? In a small voice, Rosalind murmured, £500. To her relief, David laughed. A mere flea bite. Oh, David, it's a lot of money. Not to us nowadays, Rosalind. You never really seem to grasp that you are a very rich woman. All the same, if she asked 500, she'd have gone away perfectly satisfied with 250. You must learn the language of borrowing. She murmured, I'm sorry, David. My dear girl, after all, it's your money. It isn't. Not really. You see that, David? She did. She said thank you. Me never hear. Me never hear it. What did she say? All she said was, it's very good of you, Rosalind. Thank you. That is not thank you enough. That is not thank you enough. She should say thank you. Oh my gosh. That thank you was too silent. Yeah. It was not a genuine thank you. She she not even stop of a conversation. She just thank you and grab the check and put in her purse and get up and gone. What kind of thank you is that? But anywho, let us continue. My dear girl, after all, it's your money. It isn't. Not really. Now don't begin that all over again. Gordon Cloud died before he had time to make a will. That's what's called the luck of the game. We win, you and I. The others lose. It doesn't seem right. Come on, my lovely sister Rosalind. Aren't you enjoying all this? A big house, servants, jewelry. Isn't it a dream come true? Isn't it? Glory be to God. Sometimes I think I'll wake up and find that it is a dream. God, you just always on my tail, huh? Oh my God. I can't sleep nothing past you. Jesus. She laughed with him, and watching her narrowly, he was satisfied. He knew how to deal with his Rosalind. It was inconvenient, he thought, that she should have a conscience, but there it was. It's quite true, David. It is like a dream, or like something on the pictures. I do enjoy it all. I do, really. But what we have, we hold, he warned her. No more gifts to the clouds. You understand me, Rosalind? Every one of them has got far more money than either you or I ever had. Yes, I suppose that's true. Where was Lynn this morning? He asked. I think she had gone to Longwillows. To Longwillows? To see Rowley? The oof? The clodhopper? The clodhopper? What in the world is a clodhopper? Hold on, that one I gotta go look up quickly. That sounds like a negative name he's calling him. What's wrong? What's wrong with him? Calling people all these names. A clodhopper, a size 40, a large heavy shoe. A clodhopper is a large heavy shoe, a foolish or awkward or clumsy person. Oh my gosh. He- He's something else. Let me mark that one. She's gone to see the clodhopper. His good humor vanished. Set on marrying the fellow, was she? Moodily, he strolled out of the house, up through mazed azaleas, and out through the small gate on the top of the hill. From there, the footpath dipped down the hill and past Rowley's farm. As David stood there, he saw Lynn Marchmount coming up from the farm. He hesitated for a minute. then set his jaw pugnaciously and strolled down the hill to meet her. They met by a stile just halfway up the hill. Good morning, said David. When's the wedding? You have asked that before, haven't you? She retorted. You know well enough it's in June. You're going through with it, are you? I don't know what you mean, David. Oh, yes, you do. He gave a contemptuous laugh. Rowley. What's Rowley? A better man than you. Touch him if you dare, she said lightly. I've no doubt he's a better man than me, but I do dare. I'd dare anything for you, Lynn. Really? So David likes Lynn? Really? She was silent for a moment or two. She said at last, what you don't understand is that I love Rowley. Oh, I wonder, she said vehemently. I do, I tell you, I do. David looked at her searchingly. We all see pictures of ourselves as we want to be. You see yourself in love with Rowley, settling down with Rowley, living here contented with Rowley, never wanting to get away. But that's not the real you, is it, Lynn? Oh, what is the real me? What's the real you? If it comes to that, what do you want? I'd have said I wanted safety, peace after a storm, ease after troubled seas. But I don't know. Sometimes I suspect, Lynn, that both you and I want trouble. He added moodily, I wish you'd never turned up here. I was remarkably happy until you came. Aren't you happy now? He looked at her. She felt excitement rising in her. Her breathing became faster. Never had she felt so strongly David's queer, moody attraction. He shot out a hand, grasped her shoulder, swung her around. Then, as suddenly, she felt his grasp slacken. He was staring over her shoulder down the hill. She twisted her head to see what it was that had caught his attention. A woman was just going through the small gate above Furrow. David said sharply, Who is that? Lynn said it looks like Frances. Frances? He frowned. What does Frances want? Perhaps she's just drooping. Perhaps she's just dropping in to see Rosalind. My dear Lynn, only those who want something drop in to see Rosalind. Your mother has already dropped in this morning. Mother? Lynn drew back. She frowned. What did she want? Don't you know? Money. Money? Lynn stiffened. She got it all right, said David. He was smiling now, the cool, cruel smile that fitted his face so well. They had been near a moment or two ago. They had been near a moment or two ago. Now they were miles apart, divided by a sharp antagonism. Lynn cried out, Oh, no, no, no! He mimicked her. Yes, yes, yes! I don't believe it. How much? £500. She drew her breath in sharply. David said musingly, I wonder how much Francis is going to ask for now. Really, it's hardly safe to leave Rosalind alone for 5 minutes. The poor girl doesn't know how to say no. Have there been, who else? David smiled mockingly. Aunt Katie? Aunt Katie had incurred certain debts. Oh, nothing much. A mere 250 covered them, but she was afraid it might get to the doctor's ears, since they had been occasioned by payments to mediums. Oh, so them find money to pay other man, but them can't find them own money to pay their own bills. Like seriously? He might not have been sympathetic. She didn't know, of course, added David, that the doctor himself had applied for a loan. Lynn said in a low voice, What you must think of us. What you must think of us. Us? Then, taking him by surprise, she turned and ran helter skelter down the hill to the farm. so David, so David now likes Lynn. Hmm, hmm. But Lynn is getting ready to marry old Rowley. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen. He frowned as he watched her go. She had gone to Rowley, flown, flown there as a homing pigeon flies. Oh, God, see the homing pigeon comes back again? Remember, we had talked about, I don't know why I ask you if you remember, because you forget nothing. But she had gone to Rowley, flown there as a homing pigeon flies, and the fact disturbed him more than he cared to acknowledge. He looked up the hill again and frowned. No, Francis, he said under his breath, I think not. You have chosen a bad day. And he strode purposefully up the hill. He went through the gate and down through the azaleas, crossed the lawn, and came quietly in through the window of the drawing room, just as Francis Cloud was saying, I wish I could make it all clearer, but you see, Rosalind, it really is frightfully difficult to explain. A voice from behind her said, Is it? Frances Cloud turned sharply. Unlike Adela Marchmont, she had not deliberately tried to find Rosalind alone. The sum needed was sufficiently large to make it unlikely that Rosalind would hand it over without consulting her brother. Actually, Frances would far rather have discussed the matter with David and Rosalind together than have David feel that she had tried to get money out of Rosalind during his absence from the house. She had not heard him come through the window, absorbed, absorbed as she was in the presentation of a plausible case. The interruption startled her, and she realized also that David Hunter was, for some reason, in a particularly ugly mood. Oh, David, she said easily, I'm glad you have come. I've just been telling Rosalind. Gordon's death has left Jeremy in no end of a hole, and I'm wondering if she could possibly come to the rescue. It's like this. Her tongue flowed on swiftly. The large sum involved Gordon's backing, promised verbally, government restrictions, mortgages. A certain admiration stirred in the darkness of David's mind. What a damn good liar this woman is. Plausible, the whole story, but not the truth. No, no, no. He had taken his oath on that, not the truth. What, he wondered, was the truth? Jeremy been getting himself into queer streets. It must be something pretty desperate if he was allowing Frances to come and try this stunt. She was a proud woman, too. He said, 10,000? Rosalind murmured in an awed voice, That's a lot of money. Francis said swiftly, Oh, I know it is. I wouldn't come to you if it wasn't such a difficult sum to raise. But Jeremy would never have gone into the deal if it hadn't been for Gordon's backing. It's so dreadfully unfortunate that Gordon should have died so suddenly, leaving you all out in the cold, said David with an unpleasant voice. You know, it's David mocking them, right? After a sheltered life under his wing, there was a faint flash in Frances's eyes as she said, You put things so picturesquely. Rosalind, Rosalind can't touch the capital, you know, only the income. And she pays about 19 and 6 in the pound income tax. Oh, I know. Taxation's dreadful these days, but it could be managed, couldn't it? We'll repay. He interrupted. It could be managed, but it won't be. Francis turned swiftly to Rosalind. Rosalind, you are such a generous person. David's voice cut across her speech. What do you clouds think Rosalind is? A milch cow? All of you at her, hinting, asking, begging, and behind her back, sneering at her, patronizing her, resenting her, hating her, and wishing her dead. That's not true, Francis cried. Isn't it? I tell you, I'm sick of you all. She's sick of you all. You all got no money out of us. So you can stop coming and whining for it. Do you understand me? His face was black with fury. Francis stood up. Her face was wooden and expressionless. She drew on a wash leather glove absently, yet with attention, as though it was a significant action. You make your meaning quite plain, David, she said. Rosalind murmured, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Frances paid no attention to her. Rosalind might not have been in the room. She took a step towards the window and paused, facing David. You have said that I resent Rosalind. That is not true. I have not resented Rosalind, but I do resent you. What do you mean? He scowled at her. Women must live. Rosalind married a very rich man, years older than herself. Why not? But you must live on your sister, live on the fat of the land, live softly on her. I stand between her and Arpis. They stand looking at each other. He was aware of her anger, and he thought, OMG. They stood looking at each other. He was aware of her anger, and the thought flashed across him that Francis Cloud was a dangerous enemy, one who could be both unscrupulous and reckless. When she opened her mouth to speak, he even felt a moment's apprehension. But what she said was singularly noncommittal. I shall remember what you have said, David. Passing him, she went out of the window. He wondered why he felt so strongly that the words had been a threat. Rosalind was crying now. Oh, David, David, you ought not to have been saying those things to her. She's the one of them that's been the nicest to me. He said furiously, Shut up, you little fool. Do you want them to trample all over you and bleed you of every penny? But the money, if it isn't rightfully mine, she quailed. She quailed before his glance. I didn't mean that, David. I should hope not. Conscience, he thought, was the devil. He hadn't reckoned with the item of Rosalind's conscience. It was going to make things awkward in the future. The future? He frowned as he looked at her and let his thoughts race ahead. Rosalind's future, his own. He had always known what he wanted. He knew now, but Rosalind? What future was there for Rosalind? As his face darkened, she cried out, suddenly shivering, Oh, someone's walking over my grave. He said, looking at her curiously, So you realize it may come to that, don't you? What do you mean, David? I mean that 5, 6, 7 people have every intention to hurry you into your grave before you are due there. You don't mean murder? Her voice was horrified. You think these people would do murder? Not nice people like the clouds. I'm not sure that it isn't just nice people like the clouds who do murder, but they won't succeed in murdering you while I'm here to look after you. They'd have to get me out of the way first. But if they did get me out of the way, well, look out for yourself. David, don't say such awful things. Listen, he gripped her arm. If ever I'm not here, look after yourself, Rosalind. Life isn't safe. Remember? It's dangerous, damn dangerous. And I have an idea it's especially dangerous for you. Ah, ah, ah. David, I like David. David, he's standing up for his sister. David is serious about these cloud people. He can see through them, right through them. He can see right through these people that they resent the fact that his sister was married to their rich brother slash uncle. And he's not wrong. He is he is right. All right. Let me see what chapter 7 holds. You don't want me to read chapter 7? If you don't want me to read chapter 7, I'm gonna say yes. Chapter 7 is only 2 pages. So we're gonna read it. We're gonna read chapter 7. Rowley, can you let me have £500? Rowley stared at Lynn. She stood there, out of breath from running, her face pale, her mouth set. He sat soothingly. He said soothingly, and rather as he would speak to a horse. There, there, ease up, old girl. What's all this about? I want £500. I could do with it myself, for that matter. But Rowley, this is serious. Can't you lend me £500? I'm overdrawn as it is. That new tractor. Yes, yes. She pushed aside the farming details. But you said raise money somehow. If you had to, couldn't you? What do you want it for, Lynn? Are you in some kind of a hole? Ah! All right, Sister Desiree, I'm on it. I want it for him. She jerked her head backwards towards the big square house on the hill. Hurry! Why on earth? It's Mum's. She's been borrowing from him. She's in a bit of a jam about money. Yes, I expect she is. Rowley sounded sympathetic. Damn hard lines on her. I wish I could help a bit, but I can't. I can't stand her borrowing money from David. Hold hard, old girl. It's Rosalind who actually has to fork out the cash. And after all, why not? Why not? You say, why not, Rowley? I don't see why Rosalind shouldn't come to the rescue once in a while. Old Gordon put us all in a spot by pegging out without a will. If the position is put clearly to Rosalind, she must see herself that a spot of help all round is indicated. You haven't borrowed from her, have you? No, well, that's different. I can't very well go and ask a woman for money, sort of thing you don't like doing. Can't you see that I don't like being beholden to David Hunter? But you are not. It isn't his money. That's just what it is, actually. Rosalind's completely under his thumb. Oh, I dare say, but it isn't his legally. And you can't lend me just a little bit of money? Now, look here, Lynn. If you were in some real jam, blackmail, or debts, I might be able to sell land or stock, but it would be a pretty desperate proceeding. I'm only just keeping my head above water as it is. And what with not knowing what this damn government is going to do next, hampered at every turn, snowed under with forms up to midnight, trying to fill them in sometimes. It's too much for one man. Lynn said bitterly, Oh, I know. If only Johnny's hadn't been killed. He shouted out, Leave Johnny out of it. Don't talk about that. She stared at him, astonished. His face was red and congested. He seemed beside himself with rage. Lynn turned away and went slowly back to the White House. Hmm. Andrea, what's up? Good morning, my sister. How are you doing? Good to see you. Can't you give it back, Moms? Really, Lynn, darling. I went straight to the bank with it. And then I paid authors and Budgum and Nebworth. Nebworth was getting quite abusive. Oh, my dear, the relief. I haven't been able to sleep for nights and nights. Really, Rosalind was most understanding and nice about it. Lynn said bitterly, and I suppose you'll go to her again and again and again from now on. I hope it won't be necessary, dear. I shall try to be very economical, you know that. But of course, everything is so expensive nowadays, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Yes, and we shall get worse and worse and worse. Going on, Cajun. Cajun? Cajun? Let me look up that word. Cadging? Cajun? Cajun? That word seems new to me. And the word is circled, so that means I circled it when I read the book before. Kagging. Let me see what it means. It's pronounced Cadging. That is cadging. Ask for or obtain something to which one is not strictly entitled. Okay, so cadging, it's pronounced. Okay. So that's what they're doing, yeah? Asking her for stuff to which they are not entitled. Tisha has arrived. What's up, Tisha? How are you doing? Yes, and we shall get worse and worse, going on cadging. Yes, going on asking for stuff to which they are not entitled. Okay, that's a nice word. Adela flushed. I don't think that's a nice way of putting it, Lynn. As I explained to Rosalind, we had always depended on Gordon. We shouldn't have. That's what's wrong. We shouldn't have, Lynn added. He's right to despise us. Who despises us? That odious David Hunter. Really, said Mrs. Martmont with dignity. I don't see that it can matter in the least what David Hunter thinks. Fortunately, he wasn't at Furrobank this morning. Otherwise, I dare say I would have influenced that girl. She's completely under his thumb, of course. All right. This is the last part of chapter 7 and the last of the reading for this morning. May have to run along or get that fitness saxophone fixed and then bring it to school to her. Lynn shifted from one foot to the other. What do you mean, Moms, when you said that first morning I was home, if he is her brother? What do you mean? Oh, that! Mrs. Marchmont looked slightly embarrassed. Well, there's been a certain amount of gossip, you know. Lynn merely waited inquiringly. Mrs. Marchmont coughed. That type of young woman, the adventuress type, of poor, of course, poor Gordon was completely taken in. They have us- they have usually got a well, a young man of their own in the background. Suppose she says to Gordon she's got a brother, wires to him in Canada or wherever he was. This man turns up. How is Gordon to know whether he's her brother or not? Poor Gordon, absolutely infatuated, no doubt, and believing everything she said. And Sir, her quote unquote brother, comes with them to England. Poor Gordon, quite unsuspecting. Lynn said, Lynn said fiercely, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Mrs. Marchmont raised her eyebrows. Really, my dear? He's not like that. And she isn't either. She's a fool, perhaps, but she's sweet. Yes, she's really sweet. It's just people's foul minds. I don't believe it, I tell you. I really don't believe it, Mrs. Marshmont said with dignity. There's really no need to shout. Ah, so you hear where their thoughts are gone? Joseph, good morning. Me see you wake up late for Bible study. You know why you wake up late for Bible study? Me see you 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning at Sister M and G. At Sister M and G late night live. So that's why you couldn't wake up this morning to come a Bible study. Both you and Sister M and G. But good morning, Joseph. How you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Yes, guys. So you see, this is some real modern day immigration stuff right there. So they are now thinking that Rosalind, Rosalind married Gordon and she has a man on the side. David is her man on the side. And she calls David to come and tells Gordon that David is her brother. So now she's pretending that David is her brother and he's really not, but he's her man. Lord Jesus, the thoughts of people. OMG. So that's what they are thinking of poor Rosalind. And if David doesn't stand up strong, these people are going to bleed Rosalind of her money, her little inheritance that she inherited from her dead husband. these people are really something else. And we see that happen in modern day, and that's why people end up fighting and killing people over all dead left house and dead left land because them not learn to get things for their own. They always are depend on people, and when the people the person they are depending on passes away, there is always a big fuss, a big fight over the dead left all the time, all the time. But when we come back tomorrow, yes, when we come back tomorrow, we are going to read chapter 8 onwards, and we will see what else is happening. We're gonna see what Lynn and her expected husband Rowley has to say about her mother borrowing money. Lynn is not happy that her mom has borrowed money claimed to borrow or begged money of begged Rosalind for money. They are not happy. But then they are going to continue the cadging. the cadging, caging, however you pronounce that word. They are going to continue to do that. They're going to continue to feel as though they are entitled to the money. And so they're going to continue asking Rosalind for money. Yep, that's what they're going to continue doing. So that's going to be the end of the reading this morning, my friends. I want to say thanks. Too much drama over dead left. Exactly, Andrea. Always. People look and them see granny with one little house and them are wait for when granny dead for them get it. And them not consider say a 10 pitney granny have, and granny only have 6 pitney who have something for themselves. The other 4 not have nothing for themselves. They not have nowhere to live. And them have family too. But once somebody hopes so when granny dead, them one get the house. And the other 3 can go and go kick rocks. And then them a go slay the other 3 so that only them a look. Me say, I think people easy. Too much drama. Always drama. Down at Jamaica, every day we hear of somebody else take out somebody else's life, all because of deadlift. Sister kills brother and brother kills sister over deadlift. Ain't it? But anyway, that's going to be it from me for this morning, my friends. I must get going. So I will see you all later sometime today. And when we go up on the street, my Karen with me. Yeah, I will see you all later in an hour or two. All right. So have a good day, guys. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. Until next time. This is Trev from Trevessence, where your journey matters. Have yourselves a great day, everybody.